What happens after we die? Carl Jung, one of the most profound minds in psychology, claimed to have uncovered shocking secrets about the soul's journey beyond death. From near-death visions to cosmic revelations, his discoveries challenge everything we think we know about the afterlife. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear might change how you see life and death forever. Before we continue, if you're new here, please subscribe to our channel if you find value in this video. It's a great way to support us and encourage us to create more quality content. This is not a story about religion, not a sermon, not a lecture, not the fantasy of an esoteric. This is the account of a man who once stepped beyond what we call life and returned with answers. His name was Carl Jung, and he saw what many of us only sense in the silence of the night, when all that is external fades and only one question remains. What's next? Jung was not a mystic in the usual sense. He didn't seek fame, didn't build a cult, didn't promise salvation. He was a brilliant Swiss psychiatrist with penetrating eyes and a thoughtful demeanor. But in 1944, something happened that changed his life and might just change yours. It began with a heart attack. As Jung lay in his hospital bed, hovering between life and death, something extraordinary happened. His consciousness departed from his body, not as a fantasy, not as meditation, but for real. I had the feeling that everything was being sloughed away. He later wrote, "Everything I aimed at or wished for or thought, the whole phantasmagoria of earthly existence fell away or was stripped from me." He described floating above his body, seeing the room from above, observing the doctors working frantically below. And then everything changed. He found himself in a space with no ceiling, no floor, no walls. He called it the void of creation. There were no sounds, but he knew everything he needed to know. Thoughts didn't come as words, but as instant understanding. And within that void there were others, beings, consciousnesses, souls. He didn't know who they were, but he felt they recognized him, and he recognized them. There is no language that can describe this experience. Jung wrote, "It was like being in the sphere of total knowledge, total understanding." In this state, Jung witnessed what he later called the life panorama. The soul undergoes a sort of review, not judgment, not punishment, but remembrance. Except you feel not only yourself, but everyone you've ever touched with a word, an action, a silence. "I saw my life as a whole," he said. "Nothing was hidden from me. I was what I had done. I was my life. And then you understand who you really were. This is only the beginning. And if you're still reading, it means you're ready to know more." After his out-of-body experience, Jung couldn't immediately recover. He said he felt as if he were awakening not from a dream but from another reality, one clearer, deeper than our own, as if he wasn't returning to the world, but to a shell, a limitation. He often repeated, "True life is not here. We are merely guests, travelers, students." And it wasn't just a beautiful metaphor, because in his near-death experience, he didn't just leave his body, he saw what awaits us next. He described realms that resembled cities of light, levels, layers. Some were calm like a still evening lake, others teemed like a stream of change, and each soul found itself where it belonged according to its vibration, its inner light. You don't go to heaven or hell, Jung explained in private sessions with his closest students. You simply arrive where you already are, without a mask, without a name. Honestly, Jung discovered that the soul carries not actions but their essence, not the outward deed, but the intent. If a person lived in falsehood, he feels it as heaviness, if in love as flight. But the most important part, it's not a sentence. It's an invitation to grow, to become aware, to return. He recounted seeing souls that chose to come back, to be born again, to experience pain again, joy, fear, faith, not because someone forced them, but because a call lived within them, a desire to become better, deeper, brighter. Once describing a soul preparing for incarnation, Jung said it wasn't like a movie. It was like a symphony, a vast flow of energy, light and meaning converging to a point, into a person. And he understood we are not accidents, none of us. We are not mistakes. We are a choice. You come here because there is something within you that only Earth can bring to light, he said. And this is where the most important part begins, because in these revelations there was no pomp. Jung didn't pressure. He didn't say believe. He said remember, and you could feel it. People didn't listen with their ears. They listened with their hearts, because he didn't teach. He reminded. Sometimes he cried after discussing these experiences, not from fear, from feeling, from coming into contact with something so real that our life seemed like a dream. And he admitted the hardest part is not there. The hardest part is to come back and to live as if you don't know, even though you already do. If people remembered who they are, Jung wrote in his private journal, they would stop fearing death, because death is not the end. It's the beginning of another stage more real than this one. And now the question is, do you want to know what he saw next? In one of his most profound writings, Jung described not just the realm beyond life. He described the transition, the very moment when the soul leaves the body. He described it not as a sudden jolt, not as a rupture, but as a release, as if you had been holding your breath for a long time and then exhaled, and in that instant everything changes. You are no longer in the body, but you still exist, you are aware. You feel, you perceive, only more purely, without filters, without pain. At first you see yourself, your body, the people around you. He wrote, it all feels strangely distant, as if it's no longer yours, and then it's as if a light calls you, but not a bright one, a warm one. It doesn't blind, it calls with its peace. He said that the soul is met not by angels and not by relatives, but by entities, beings that cannot be described in words because they have no form, but they have presence. You cannot see them, but you can feel them, like love that needs no proof. It simply is. It's a state of recognition, as if you are returning to a place you've always been, you just forgot. Jung said, the main thing is not just a meeting, it's a moment of truth. There is no judgment there, no punishment. They show you. They show your entire life like in the palm of a hand, but not the events, the feelings, what you felt, what others felt around you. Everything you ever sent into the world comes back to you so you can understand. And if you hurt someone, you will feel that pain, not as punishment, but as a lesson, as realization. This is what the other felt. And if you love someone, you will feel that again, magnified, pure, not distorted by words. It's not God asking you who you were, Jung said. It's you without fear, without excuses, answering yourself, did I become who I wanted to be? Sometimes, he said, souls refuse to go further. They get scared. They are attached to the world, to loved ones, to unfinished things, and they remain in between, in a space he called the gray light. There is no fear, but also no peace. It's like a hallway with no door, until you decide to move on or to return. But what came next was even more astonishing. Jung described levels, places the soul goes, depending on what it had accumulated in life. Not wealth, not status, but light, the purity of intention, the ability to love even when it hurts. And each of these levels is not a place. It's a state, a vibration. You don't ascend. You remember who you are, and by that you become it. And here his voice would become especially quiet, as if he wanted to say something that should not be spoken aloud. But still he said it. He said that beyond those levels there is silence, but not an empty one. It's like the breath of the universe. There are no forms, no names, no memory of who you were, only the soul in its original light. I cannot describe it in words. Jung confessed to his closest pupils. It's like returning to the source of everything, to a place where you and the collective unconscious are not two but one. But to reach that place, one must go through release. And that is not always easy. Because even after death, we hold on to resentment, to desires, to our image of self. And each such anchor is like a weight that keeps the soul from rising. Jung saw how some souls wandered because they couldn't forgive themselves, others the world, and some because they feared being forgotten, that their life meant nothing. And then entities would come, helpers, not as saviors, but as reminders. You are more than you think, and you are not alone. According to Jung, many souls want to return despite all the pain of earthly life, because there on the other side they suddenly remember. Life is not suffering, it is a chance. It is an opportunity to love, to grow, to remember. The soul doesn't return to suffer, it returns to become itself. He saw how souls choose future lives. They choose their parents, their country, even their challenges, not as victims, as actors in a cosmic drama of self-discovery. And this was Jung's greatest revelation. We are not random. Our pain is not random. Our meetings are not random. Everything that happens to us reflects what we came with, what we wanted to face, what we wanted to remember. You are not a body seeking meaning, he said. You are meaning that came into a body. Sometimes Jung spoke in riddles, as if he couldn't reveal everything, as if he knew not everyone was ready. But in those phrases there was something that struck a chord. The truth is not in what happens after death, but in what you do while you're alive. There is no death, only a change of rooms. The hardest part is not dying. The hardest part is being yourself. And then it began to seem that he had seen not just the afterlife, but a map of the soul, with roads, with crossroads, with places where we forget ourselves and places where we finally remember. One day Jung said, the greatest pain of the soul is not the loss of the body, it is the forgetting of its nature. He claimed that most people live as if in a dream, because they are afraid of what they'll see when they wake up. But waking up, that is the real purpose of incarnation. He wasn't interested in religions, dogmas, or sex. He spoke of something simple. Be the light even if you are in the dark. Jung claimed the soul is never lost. Even if we die in fear, even if we're confused, we are still found. The light always finds its spark because every person is not an accident but a calling, an answer to some ancient prayer. In one of his last writings, Jung said, "I saw a soul returning to the light, and it cried not from pain, but from recognition, from realizing how deeply it had underestimated itself in life, and how deeply it had been loved all along." Jung said that each of us has an invitation, a moment when reality seems to crack and light breaks through the gap, and all that is required of us is not to run, but to stop and say, "I hear." And if you've read to the end, maybe this is your moment, not a coincidence, not just words on a screen, a sign that you are already on your way home. If you felt something inside while reading these lines, even if barely, don't leave it unanswered. Because somewhere inside us, all of this is already known. Somewhere within us resonates what Jung called the voice of the soul. Share this with someone who may have also forgotten and is now ready to remember. See you where words end and the real begins. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. See you on the next one.